Welcome to Divorce and Relationships Decoded, the show that takes the guesswork out of love, loss, and everything in between. Hosted by me, Jennifer Perri, a CDC certified divorce and empowerment coach, and Dr. Deborah Wilder, a divorce and relationship expert. This is the place where real conversations meet expert advice. So get ready to decode divorce and relationships like never before. Divorce and Relationships Decoded starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Divorce and Relationships Decoded. I am one of your hosts, Jennifer Perri. I'm a CDC certified divorce coach, and I am here with my dear friend, Dr. Deborah Wilder, who is a divorce and relationship specialist. She is also a certified narcissistic abuse treatment clinician. I have to always, I'm going to continuously give myself a thumbs up when I can manage to do it without messing it up.
It's great to
hear. Everybody knows what you do. So
I appreciate that. And everybody knows what you do too, which is so important.
So how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Good to see you as always. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Today we're going to talk about love without the whiplash. How many times do you feel, even if you're in therapy, counseling, working with a coach like myself, that you're just going around and you're getting caught in circles and you feel like you're not getting anywhere? So we want to start peeling that back and peeling the layers of that and talking through it, because we want to give you some tips and some suggestions on things too about having conversations along the way with your therapist, with your counselor, with your coach, if you feel that it's not moving, and also with your partner. One of the first things I want to talk about, and we were talking a little bit about it before we started, was just the challenges in the relationship and looking at different personalities that come in. I know we've talked about attachment styles. We've talked about understanding love languages. But when you see people that are caught in this loop, what do you see as the number one challenge? Is it miscommunication? Is it love languages? What do you see is the cause of it?
I think it's a combination, but if I were, and I'm thinking of a couple I worked with very recently, and their attachment styles are different. Their needs are different. They've been married for a long time. And let's just say the husband has a real desire to connect more with the wife. And his manner is with intense pressure, with a need to control, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, and real interrogation or accusations or suspicion. Like there's a real fear somehow that she's going to leave, and his energy is such that it tends to push her. And she is more independent. She wants to be closer with him, but it's hard to get past the negative energy at times. And he's a very warm and loving person, but the intensity is very strong and is not inviting. It's not inviting at all. So when you take someone who tends to withdraw from that kind of pressure in the relationship dynamic, and of course there are things that she does that create more tension with his needs. There are things that each of them could do and need to do differently in order to meet each other's needs, but they only get so far. And I'm not keeping score or saying it's a level playing field. There's a point where you can call it an impasse or a feeling like a roller coaster, where here we are again, and it ends up being like putting out a series of fires rather than really connecting. So understanding the relationship dynamics is very important. We've talked about attachment styles. We've talked about those love languages and things like that. But understanding the relationship dynamics is so important, because you know what the scaffolding is and where you can walk and where you really shouldn't walk, those danger zones. So knowing the relationship dynamics, that you have someone who maybe has a greater need for connection and there's anxiety associated with that. And with the other person, there may be more anxiety associated with more connection. So knowing that can really help with not feeling as hurt or confused, or again, even in therapy, having these impasses and these frustrations and feeling like we're not getting anywhere. And the other part of that is when you go into therapy, it's a relationship. People have to trust me, and I need to trust them that they're going to understand. They're going to do whatever they need to do on their own terms. I'm not in control of that. I'm a facilitator a vessel, whatever it
Right.
is, helping them, an interpreter, whatever it is. But there is a relationship there, that there's a commitment, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think sometimes people fall short in their commitments because they're waiting for the other one to do more or to do differently. And so you end up in this sort of circular pattern where there, again, does feel like there's an impasse and a sense sometimes of helplessness. Now, what do I do? She's not doing anything differently that I need. He's not doing anything differently or whatever. He, it doesn't matter. Things aren't happening in the ways that the other person needs. And so I think it's very important, if you're in therapy, to commit to it as best you can. And when you are feeling like things aren't happening, I know for me, I value feedback. I want people to tell me if they're taking their time and paying their money to spend time with me in this capacity, and things aren't going as they imagine, as they hope, as they wish, as they think should be. Let me know how you feel about that. We can address that. I might agree with you. Like, it seems like we are stuck here. So let's figure out what do we need to do. Or I know there have been times when I've said, let's evaluate that, because what I'm seeing are these kinds of things, which to me represent movement forward. And maybe the other person or the people don't see what I see. Or so I would imagine that most therapists would welcome feedback, because I don't think any of us want to waste our time and their time, and they become more frustrated and the relationships don't get better. I, as we all do, take our jobs very seriously. And when people come to me, as when they come to you, to me, those are precious moments. And there's to open up and be vulnerable and put your trust in someone to help you, to help save your marriage or help you save your marriage and do reconstruction or reconciliation or whatever it is, or individual work. It's a privilege, but there's a real importance in that. I think it's important for me, of course, to be committed always, but for my folks to be committed as well. And I know there are impasses that can be reached. So the point being, it's important to understand what your dynamics are. So when you have those moments when you feel like we're not getting anywhere, I think it's important to regroup and say, okay, let's revisit. What are we dealing with? In addition to the fires that we may need to deal with, what are we dealing with underneath? What is going on still that is keeping the two of you, let's say, stuck? Or one of you might be moving in one direction, the other person isn't seeing it, or whatever it is. So I think you want to say coming back to center, revisiting the underlying dynamics of the relationship, how each person, what those vulnerabilities are, and to be able to continue to address that rather than giving up or feeling helpless or hopeless. Again, understand the dynamics. That's number one. And a lot of that has to do with attachment styles. So that's an important part, to be able to observe people, even in session, but to revisit the core of the issues in addition to putting out fires or dealing with that roller coaster. What are your thoughts about that?
And I think too, one of the things that I intentionally do when I'm working with someone too is holding up a mirror, because you can have a couple come in, sit down, this couple you're talking about, but if they're not taking responsibility and being accountable for what they're bringing to the table or not bringing to the table in a relationship, it's really easy to blame the other person.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, he's not doing this or she's not doing that, and I'm over here doing all these things, but are you really? I've had some pretty intense conversations with women who have found themselves stuck in this victim mentality. And I have a hard time with that, because I look at what could be lost in a lifetime if I just stayed a victim and lived in that mentality and allowed it to eat away at my potential in my life. I wouldn't have the extraordinary life that I have now. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met my husband. I have my kids, but I wouldn't be successful. I feel like there are so many things that you can get trapped in that space. And I feel like I would do my clients a disservice, as well as you probably feel too, if you didn't hold them accountable. And if you didn't say, hey, listen, I have had numerous women who have worked with who have been not the issue in each relationship, but certainly not open to have a discussion about, well, it is me. I set my expectations here. I do all this and I'm not appreciative and I'm not vocal about stuff. And you find out sometimes that, hey, wait a minute, you know what? This is me. And I love feedback. As long as it's constructive feedback, you can still tell me if there's something that I need to do differently or that you think I need to do differently, or you can share your thoughts and feedback. You don't need to tear me down to do that.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to tear you down to do that. I'm going to give you feedback that is constructive. Maybe you sit down and you find out that there is something that your partner is really struggling with and they don't know how to approach you about that because they love you unconditionally, but there's something that they need to talk to you about. So I think holding up a mirror in a session or working with clients is so important too. And you talked about too, there is a huge difference between putting out fires versus getting to really what's causing it. We're both moms, we both are business owners. We put out a lot of fires. Sometimes there's fires that just keep coming up in the same area, but it's getting in there and it's really digging in and having conversations and preventing those fires from continuously popping up. What do you see is the underlying cause for these fires?
I think, and let me just say before I answer that question, it's important to be able to put out the fires. Sometimes you need to put out the fires before you can get to the underlying issues. You can't just take a deep dive right away. Most of the time, if there's a fire,
Right.
Deal with that, put out the fire or try. But we also know that the fire can restart. So that's important. But I think being able to identify what each person's needs are, and then to commit to really giving it as much as you can. And I think a lot of people, as I was saying before, they slow down and stop at some point and they wait for the other person to do more or to do differently. And accountability is very, very important. But sometimes the hurt is so deep, or why should I put more effort and energy in if you're not doing what you said you would do? You promised me you would do this. You promised me you would do this for years, and you haven't done it. So I keep getting upset about it, and you're not doing what you need to do, so sometimes it's which comes first, the chicken or the egg. But to understand the relationship dynamics is very important, to be able to communicate your needs. And I will say something else. Not all couples have the unconditional love that most people want. Many times the love has changed significantly, and there are all sorts of reasons why people stay together. And one person might love the other person deeply. The other person might not have that same feeling. Sometimes that makes a difference as far as effort that's put in. Sometimes people stay married because for financial reasons, it's easier. You have a companion, you have a comfortable life, you know what to expect, but that love isn't necessarily there. And the relationships could be very imbalanced. But being able to share how you feel, ask for what you need, talk about what your thoughts are in a way that's productive and thoughtful, that's important. And then you take it from there. But if you're not willing to put in the effort, that really makes a lot of difference. It really does.
There's a question I want to ask you. If you are a single person and you're just listening to this, what are the things that people need to be aware of that they may be doing, and the best way that they can find a path forward to help make it better?
Being aware of your triggers is so helpful. If you are, and being aware of your own behavior. If you're walking around grumpy all the time, or growling, or telling your partner do this or do that rather than asking, you might not even be aware of how you're coming across. So self-awareness is very important. That's very important, because if you're hurting and you're coming across as hurt and angry and frustrated and grumpy and growly again, and the other person is saying to you, I will get closer to you when I feel more comfortable around you. And that means you need to be softer with me. You need to be more thoughtful and just be kind in the way that you talk to me rather than gruff, because that's not going to make me want to come towards you, which is going to make you more upset, which is going to make me want to stay away more. So self-awareness is very important. Also, and the triggers. I worked with a younger couple who in the mornings would have a very similar routine, and one spouse might get impatient with the other one. And the wife had an anxious attachment style. So when the husband would get upset, she would go into this almost panic, and it blew up into way more than what it was. And I would see this happening in our sessions sometimes, and we could talk about it. But being aware doesn't always keep you from going into that anxious state or whatever state that is. But if you're aware of the triggers, then you could be better prepared for handling when your spouse may feel upset or speak in a different tone. Then that doesn't just set you off. So being aware of your own behavior, that's important. And also knowing your triggers and trying to prepare for those moments when you may be triggered. Those things can be very helpful.
It's also the perception of it. Now that I'm around my parents all the time, I love them to pieces. And the likelihood that they'll ever watch this, because they're not going through divorce or anything like that. I will watch. My mom will say something to me and she'll say, yeah, Dad was grumpy this morning and the way he answered me, and I was really hurt and all. And I said, did you say something to him? She says, no, I didn't say anything to him. And then I've been there when he may not hear what she says. So she'll repeat it and she'll get kind of snarky. And then he's trying to figure out why she's it's like it's hysterical, because it's perception. It's how it was said. It's the tone. If Carm goes to work in the morning and he hasn't kissed me 3 times, oh my gosh, now he doesn't love me. You have all these little tiny things because you look at things differently than someone else.
Yeah.
So just be cautious of that too. I am a very big communicator. I've encouraged everybody in my life to be big communicators. If there is something that is being said or done, rather than I'm going to sit this on the shelf and the next thing you know, you're going into a therapy session or a coaching session and you're just unleashing everything because it's just all stacked up like a snowball. Yeah. And now it's just going to go running down the hill. Make sure you're having the conversations too. And there's ways that you can have conversations and let people know. It takes 2 people to make a relationship extraordinary. Sometimes it only may take one person to really mess one up. I think for the people who are the most successful in relationship and life and love, they're the people who can sit there and take the criticism or be aware that, hey, there are going to be things that I do that aren't 100% right all the time. People aren't perfect. But I think it's just that open communication. And like you were saying before, you love feedback. I love feedback. If you're in a scenario where you've been working with a therapist or a counselor or a coach and you're not happy, have a conversation. I'm sure they're going to want to know. I would want to know. You would want to know. So make sure that you're having those conversations, but also have the conversation with yourself to make sure that you've been showing up, just like we show up for our clients every time we meet them. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you're doing what you need to do. Make sure you're bringing to the table what you need to be doing and taking your level of accountability in as well. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap up today?
We could talk about this maybe another time, just even asking for clarification from your partner. This is how I'm feeling. Is this what you intended for me to hear and understand and feel? But being aware of your own triggers, being aware of your own behaviors, and preparing for potential triggering moments, all of that can be very helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend, for another awesome conversation. It's always great when we have time to talk with each other. And if you are watching this and you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and make sure you share it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And if you have any questions for us, if there's a topic you want us to talk about, send it to questions@drdecoded.com. And we will be back again next week with another wonderful conversation. But as always, it's great to see you.
You too.
And we look forward to coming back and seeing you guys again next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
That's a wrap for this episode of Divorce and Relationships Decoded. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and empowering. If this conversation resonated with you, we'd love for you to share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Remember, healing, growth, and transformation happens one conversation at a time. If you have a question, a story, or a topic you'd love for us to explore, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at questions@drdecoded.com. Your thoughts and experiences are always welcome here. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another insightful episode of Divorce and Relationships Decoded. Until then, take care and keep moving forward.